morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to this program. Tonight, we'd like to discuss democracy and what is stopping Zimbabwe becoming a really healthy and functioning democracy. The starting point has to be that democracy is, in my view, the political system of government that has proven that it works and has benefited those nations that have embraced it. We in Zimbabwe, we do not have to reinvent the wheel. We only have to apply it. Why is it that we have found it so difficult to be a healthy and functioning democracy in Zimbabwe? This video I'm going to play looks at that very question from the Greeks' point of view, those 2,500 years ago, when they came up with the system. And I'll just quickly play it and then we'll start discussing it.
That there are always three kinds of people in any given society. This threefold distinction has been noted and made by notable sociologists and public intellectuals. But this threefold distinction of the three kinds of people, it was first identified and first stated by the supporters and founders of democracy in ancient Greece. For the Greek people, the people who in many ways gave us the modern civilized world, for the Greek people, the first kind of people in any given society are the idiots. For the Greeks, the idiot is not necessarily someone who is mentally deficient. Rather, for ancient Greek people, the idiot, they said, is someone who is a totally private person, a totally self-centered person, and a totally selfish person. They called him the idiot. The idiot, he is always out for his personal gain and his personal interests. He does not have a public philosophy. He has no knowledge, no skill, no character, and no virtues to be able to live and to be able to contribute in a flourishing society and community. He's all out for his personal pleasures and for his personal treasures. And the Greeks said that the idiot was just an upgraded barbarian. The first kind of person, the idiot. But the Greeks also said that there is a second kind of people in any given society. And the Greeks called these people the tribes people. When we say tribes people, we don't necessarily mean the fact of belonging to a certain tribe, which is a good thing. But when they use the word tribes people, the Greeks meant a tribal and a tribalistic mentality. And the Greeks said that tribes people are those people who are not able to think beyond their small tribe or their small groups. For tribes people, their primary allegiance, their only allegiance, and their ultimate allegiance is to their tribe. Their tribe is their God, and their religion is tribalism. And tribes people, the Greeks said, are always afraid of things that are different, that are a little alien to them. They are always suspicious and fearful. And they always dealt with different people and difficult situations with intimidation, with force, and with violence. And the Greeks also said that the ideal person for tribes people is the warrior, because tribes people are a war-making people. Their ideal is the warrior. But it was not so for the Greeks. For the Greeks, there was another kind of people, another kind of a person, and that was the ideal person. And the Greeks called this ideal person the citizen. The citizen. And here, when we use the word citizen, we are not talking about legal status or political status. We are talking about the idea and the ideal of citizenship. And who is the citizen? The citizen, according to the Greeks, is someone who has the skills and the knowledge to live a public life, who is able to live a life of civility. The citizen recognizes that he or she is a member of a commonwealth and thus strives for the common good. That is the citizen. The citizen, yes, he or she knows his or her rights in a society, but he or she also knows his or her responsibilities to society. The citizen can fight for his rights, but always with an awareness of and with a respect for the rights and interests of others, of their neighbors, of the smallest of minorities, and of the worst of their enemies. And it is citizens, the Greeks said, that make up a civilized society, because citizens settle their differences with civility. So they produce a civilized society, a society that truly lives up to the name, to the meaning of the name society. Society literally means friendship and friendliness. That is the threefold distinction that the Greeks have given us. That is the choice that each and every individual, wherever he or she may be, has to make in a society. And I believe that that is the choice that starkly faces us Naga people today. Will we be idiots living only for ourselves? Will we be tribalistic, tribes people, unable to think beyond our tribes and our small groups? Or will we be citizens? Citizens in the best sense of the word. Today, on this historic day, I believe I want to make my choice. And I also believe that you will want to make your choice. And I hope you and I will take that right choice. And it is with that hope that I want to finally address you, ladies and gentlemen, as my fellow Naga citizens. May God bless you, and may God bless our Naga people.
Benjamin, you have heard the man. Do we have those three types of people in Zimbabwe? That is my first question.
Good day to you. Thank you for having me on the program, and to our viewers, thank you for joining us. Unfortunately, like he said, in any given society, which includes Zimbabwe, I would like to believe has these type of people or these classes of people. Yes, I believe Zimbabwe has these type of people.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. We do have the idiots, the tribesmen, and the citizen. And I think the next logical question would be, in what proportion? In your view, in what proportion, in terms of percentage of the Zimbabwean citizen, 15 million or so of us, what is the percentage of the idiots?
So, if you may allow me to explain my point, I'll just give you the figures, and then allow me to explain why I gave such figures. So, I believe a majority of Zimbabweans are tribesmen, unfortunately being ruled by idiots. So that's how I find, and we have genuine citizens, but unfortunately their voices are kind of suppressed by the other two classes, which are overly more than the other, with the majority being tribesmen. Why am I saying majority are tribesmen? In Zimbabwe's political environment is cut right in between. It's either you are ZANU PF or you are with Chamisa. You cannot be found somewhere in between. Yes, there are a few that would shun themselves away from both, but the majority is either with ZANU PF or with Chamisa. And for them, these two, if you believe in one, you don't believe they are wrong. ZANU PF is never wrong. ZANU PF, like they say, Musangano. If you're there with Chamisa, Chamisa is Chamisa Chete Chete. Despite the shortcomings, we will follow him no matter what. So those are characteristics of the tribesmen, according to what I took out from what he was saying. To follow somebody with no compromise or with no questions asked. And this is what I feel, that the majority, if I may say, probably, in the upper 80%, 80 to 90% of Zimbabweans are tribesmen. And then the idiots are those that are in high office, selfish, self-centered, right? And then we have the minority, who will probably consist less than 5%, or even of that actually make the ideal citizen. That's how I see it.
Well, I have to agree with you that we have got the overwhelming majority of the citizens either as the tribesmen or the idiots. And in this particular case, I think one has to accept that the idiots usually do struggle to understand the issues at stake. And also the other thing that must be understood here is on that hierarchical pecking order, you always tend to have the tribesmen exploiting the idiots, and the citizen is above the other two classes. So in this particular case, the chances are the idiots will elect somebody who is either one of them, a fellow idiot, or a tribesman, because they cannot appreciate the value of the citizen is offering. They can't comprehend it. And therefore, then the chances are, when you've got a majority of consisting of idiots or tribesmen, you will have a government, a mediocre government at best, of individuals who are cunning enough to exploit the weaknesses of those two groups. So in this particular case, I would say, yes, I totally agree with you. And I think most of our politicians, I think one will have to be naive to pretend that they can ever be called citizens. All they do is exploit the tribesmen and the idiots. And therefore, then they have no value of the appreciation of the common good, the communal good. And that is where our problem is. And I think that is at the heart of why Zimbabwe has failed to produce a healthy and functioning democracy. Because as long as you've got the majority of the people uh, who are idiots or tribesmen, you will never have a quality government, because the citizen who will offer himself as a leader will never be elected, because these people do not understand what he's talking about, do not understand. If you've got that tribal mentality, if somebody comes to you and say to you, no, you cannot, we cannot thrive as a country with that type of tribal mentality, the chances are you turn around and say, well, I'm not going to vote for you. I want to vote for somebody who will tell me that my tribal mentality is the right one, and that is worth fighting for. That is the value that we want, and so you'll end up with that kind of division. I believe actually in the modern, in the ancient Greeks, the citizens were the ones who had the vote. The idiots and the tribesmen did not have the vote. So you had to be a Greek citizen to vote. And their citizens were, they put a lot of emphasis in the citizen must be educated so that they are knowledgeable and they are diligent. So keeping them in that category of being a citizen and bringing up individuals so that they fit into that category of citizen was important. Whereas in our case, I think it is that is not the case. Personally, I think universal suffrage has been a case for countries like Zimbabwe. I don't know what you think on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. We have the predominant force being tribesmen and idiots. So this will kind of suppress, democracy, which can only be, enjoyed when you have attained the third class, which is a true citizen. But I also believe, it is the onus is on an individual to move between all three classes. It's just a matter of due diligence and doing what is required, or doing the fundamentals for you to work towards what democracy requires. And what does democracy require? I think we've always said this during this our live program. Democracy requires us to have due diligence, to want to find fact for ourselves, to ask questions, right? And to go beyond whatever we are being told by validating our point and encouraging debate and not stifling it. So I believe it's a choice. One can actually move. You're not, if you're in the tribesmen, group, you're not stuck in there forever. It's up to you, for you to want to choose to go backwards to being an idiot, or to move forward and be a citizen. I think it can be a choice, and it can be attained. It's just that we have to do what is required of us. And a lot of us want democracy, but we do not want to do what is essential for us to attain democracy. And I think that is where our shortcoming is. We like the idea, but not wanting to do the dirty work.
I think the issue of moving it's not that easy. I don't think it is easy.
It's not easy at all, yes.
Well, take for instance somebody who is failing to understand the subtle difference between free, fair, and credible elections. Yeah, and only things with winning is what matters. They will have this tribal mentality that electing somebody from their own tribe will be in the best interest of the tribe. And therefore, then that's all they care about. And you are locked into that situation, particularly when you have got many other people around you who agree with you. And there is no incentive. In fact, in the case of Zimbabwe, we have got a regime, ZANU-PF, that has deliberately stifled meaningful public debate by controlling the media. In ancient Greece, freedom of expression was valued. And to the extent that they passed the laws that allowed freedom of expression and freedom of association, even that early in their history, 2,500 years ago. And yet in Zimbabwe, you find, when you look at the Ministry of Information, that is Ministry of Propaganda. The number one priority is to make sure that people are misinformed and in some cases brainwashed. So instead of educating, you're denying them the opportunity to be educated. And thus you're keeping them as with that tribal mentality and with that idiot mentality. And one of the ways ZANU-PF has done it to encourage this tribal mentality is this issue of democracy is viewed as a Western idea, and therefore then is labeled as being brought by the British and the Western to achieve regime change. And that is the epitome of the tribal mentality. You know, we have got to protect ourselves from these neo-colonialists. Whereas in reality, of course, ZANU-PF is actually brainwashing the people. Because while they publicly denounce the West and saying they're trying to interfere in Zimbabwe's affairs, meanwhile, they are letting in the Chinese through the back doors. And the Chinese have become more dominant in Zimbabwe society than the British. And in this particular case, not to the benefit of society, but to the benefit of ZANU-PF. The tribal mentality is being promoted even further. The ZANU-PF has become more important than Zimbabwe itself. You know, so we find ourselves in that kind of situation. I don't think moving between those two different groups is an easy process. If you are an idiot, you don't care about anything. To move into a tribal mentality is very difficult. You are the type who would vote, for instance, if you are given a scud of beer and a t-shirt. That's all you care about. And you vote for somebody like that.
Yes, it's difficult. Yes, I didn't say it's a walk in the park. Just the same way, attaining democracy is not easy, right? Especially given the current situation that is in Zimbabwe, where everything is oppressive. It's hard to get to the stage where we're saying we're enjoying democracy, but it's not something that cannot be attained. It can. We cannot continue saying that ZANU-PF preaches its own propaganda. I was going through, there's an application on Google Play Store that has got Zimbabwe newspapers. I did not realize that Zimbabwe has got over 20 newspapers. So that cannot be an excuse, because the Chronicle and the Herald, they keep, posting Zimbabwe propaganda. There are a lot of other. I mean, we have to thank God for and people that created this thing called the internet. It is now up to us, for us to use it to our own benefit. This can actually be a tool that can be used to aid us by giving us exposure. I would understand from somebody that is in the rural areas, that hasn't been, that hasn't got the opportunity of exposure to see what is happening around the world. A lot of people have got the internet in the palm of their hands through their phones. It is what you use it for that will modify you into a better class citizen, right? So we cannot continue having excuses. Otherwise, the more we say we are going to be idiots or we are going to be tribesmen, then we might as well give up on democracy. Because as long as we have those people, it's unattainable. That's what we are saying. But I believe it's attainable when you move society from where it is, from the comfort zone that it is, where they are just, they're in this little cocoon of theirs, and bring them out to see what the world is. And I believe the citizens of Zimbabwe, they are beginning to see. It's only that they just need the fine tuning where they can actually say whatever they have to say and be able to validate. I think our problem is we all have good and beautiful intentions, but it is the ability for us to validate our standpoint. Why do you follow Chamisa? Why do you follow ZANU-PF? What have they delivered? Things like that, they should be able to be said out publicly.
Well, I think making a claim like people are moving, becoming more democratic, you need to give examples.
No, I never said people are becoming more democratic. I said people are becoming more aware because, exposure. People are becoming more exposed to not only the confines of Zimbabwe. Like okay, I've given an example of
more exposed, but if they become better citizens, if they moved towards citizens, that is the crux of the matter there.
Yes, I said because of exposure, people are getting more exposed to what is outside, not only confined to what is inside Zimbabwe. So
I'm not disputing that. What I'm saying is that exposure is that moved the graph from being an idiot towards becoming a citizen, from becoming a tribesman to becoming a citizen. That is what I'm asking. Exposure is yes, exposure is there. This is the 21st century after all, and the opportunities for exposure are absolutely a multitude. But has that made any difference? That's what I'm asking.
Yes, a lot of people have become, due to just technology, a lot of people have become more vocal. Being vocal does not necessarily mean you're going to say the right thing. But people are becoming more engaged. I mean, let's look, for example, the comment sections that are happening on social media when maybe, let's say, ZANU-PF posts and say they've done such and such a thing. People do say, right? It is not you that or me that can develop the content that comes out of there. But it is the individual, right? But what I'm saying is it has helped them for them to be more engaged within what is happening in Zimbabwe. We cannot control what if they're in the right direction, but we can try and correct. So it is not impossible for them not to move from one class to the other. I think that is, if we say it is impossible, then we might as well forget about the talk of democracy or attaining democracy, because we are saying it's a sealed, it's a done deal. But I'm saying there are other instruments that are there now that that can encourage one to move from, not being, totally engaged to move to some engagement. That's moving from being an idiot to be a tribes, tribes person. It's possible. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying it will definitely give us the end result. No.
I think we have now gone on for 30 minutes, and I really wanted to keep it short. I think this issue, to me, is such an important one that I would like to pick it up again tomorrow in part 2 of the discussion to discuss this very issue. So those of you who can join us, please join us then. Otherwise, good night, everybody.
Good night.